clients that you gave out the laptops to, in right along with the receipt that you're uploading into Expensify. And I know that that's going to be difficult to do with incentives for like, when she mentioned that, I immediately thought of like the CTRL program, the testing program, because they buy in bulk all their incentives up front, and then they distribute them as they are going through different outreaches. So what I'm thinking that needs to happen is that, Chris, before you reconcile, you need to make sure to get a copy of that incentive log and upload upload that supporting documentation along with the receipt of, if it's $1,000 worth of incentives, then you should be able to list out $1,000 worth of $1,000 worth of signatures. And in the event that you haven't used the entire $1,000, then you can just justify on the side of the receipt here, just type in or write in $500 is still, we still have $500 worth of incentives, but we're uploading $500 worth of signatures. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense.
And everybody else, we're good? Well, we're all still following? All right. Go ahead, Chris.
Okay, so uploading receipts. And so this portion we're talking about splitting checks. All right, so sometimes you're going to have, let's say if you go to Target and you buy client supplies, client food, and just regular supplies, you're going to have to split this check multiple ways. So some of the things to keep note of in the bottom when you're putting it into your form, your expenses form, the amount of the expense is going to be the total of the area. So this 1993 is, I think it's the grocery added up. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, so that's gonna be the section. So for example, we'll say that this is the client food, and then the total amount is going to be the total of the overall purchase on this receipt. That way you can see what the difference is and what you're spending for each category. And when you're doing this, you're going to, correct me if I'm wrong, you're going to submit this receipt multiple times for each particular area. So like you would upload this into your health promotions form one time for client supplies, another time for client food, and another time for client supplies, making sure that you're annotating that all of these are combined, all of these are linked, and just inputting in the notes section that like all of these are the same purchase with a total of X, Y, and Z.
So that's 6421, right? Or is it 64?
Yes.
21? Isn't that in here? Okay, so let's take this one for example. So I know we're putting YPP on blast right now, but so YPP spent a total of $171.16 for their graduation, right? So these two totals add up to does everybody see down here where it says 171.16? These two add up to the total, and when we're reconciling or when we're trying to find a receipt, that's how we know that these two are the same receipts. They both have the exact same upload as a receipt. But in order for your individual program spreadsheets to be informed with accurate spending, we have to submit them multiple times per category, even though we need to make sure that we're organizing. We know that these two are linked. So we know that they spent, this is a bad example, it's probably split up because of the check numbers, but the client supply, like we would know that the client supplies would be $25 worth, and then their YPP spreadsheet would upload in that line item, and then whatever the second category is will automatically upload in their other So that's the way we know when there's multiple categories on one receipt, and that also helps with the reconciling process in Expensify, because you would only upload one receipt, and Cynthia will go over this later, but it helps you quickly figure out how much you have to break down each category within Expensify.
All right. And lastly, these are the sections that are going to be on your form. If there's any other questions that you have, I just covered kind of like the top issues that I found when learning how to navigate this form. Are like some of the things that I always feel like I have to go back and be like, okay, is it this way or that way? But these are your respective sections. This is what your form would look like. Obviously, it would be for your department. But yeah, next slide is reconcile.
I want to go through an actual like show. Do we need to show an example of how to upload a receipt, or do we feel comfortable moving on? Anybody?
Yeah, I think it would be helpful.
All right.
I did have one question, George. How do we account for taxes? An organization I worked for before, we brought a tax exemption form whenever we went shopping, but I noticed that at LAYC, it's not quite, that's not, at least in the ed department, it's not something we're able to do.
So we should be, in that shared folder, we should have a copy of the exam form, and we should be taking that form to get the taxes removed. But in the event that you don't do that, which again, you should be doing it, if you don't get it done, you just got to pick a category and put it there. I don't think that, unless if Cynthia, you want to correct me, there's not really like guidance around where it should be billed. So maybe that's something the business office can address later on, but we should be taking that that exempt form. And I know that sometimes we have issues with vendors and them not wanting to do it. Some of them give us like a hard time for that. And I wouldn't stress out about actually getting that done because it's not worth the headache. But yeah, does that answer your question?
I just kind of wanted to piggyback on that for Expensify side, at least. For those that have BB&T accounts, the taxes piece, you can actually split it and just code it to, Susanna has created like a admin Q code for all the departments. So there's like a housing department Q code, wellness, education, I think, and you can use that Q code to pretty much separate the taxes in Expensify. I'm not sure if that's the direction you'd like to take moving forward for requests for expenditures that are not in Expensify. That'd be something to, I guess, look into or give it a thought. But I know that there is definitely a admin Q code for each department that will not affect your grants.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. So this is the form that what you would use, except that the name would be different for education. From here, you know what? I'm going to use an education. Just to change it up. So this is the education form, which is located in the shared folder. And then these are all the grants that you could pick from. So you would just select a grant, the grant that you're billing to, and then here would be all of your check numbers. If it's an RFE, it would be directly to the business office, because you're not, when you select this option, it's because you are just submitting an RFE to the business office, but you're not necessarily using the money. If you're using money in the account, you would select one of those check numbers. So in this case, because all I have are those, and the BBT, that's just like kind of like a catch-all. You know, you don't really know where to put it right now, but you just want to get it submitted. That's why that's there. And then you would just select the date of when the purchase was made. The line item, like Chris was saying, that if you have multiple categories on one receipt, you would then select the first one, and then say the first one was $12. And then this was Target, and the total was the 64. What was it? 21. And then no comment there, upload. And just that one for example. Hit upload, submit, and then you should get